Good afternoon and good evening. Welcome to a second chance. My name is Philip Jones, kidney transplant recipient.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bella Langston. I am also a kidney transplants recipient coming on 18 years. Glad to be here as co-hosting with Philip, and I also host my own podcast called Bella's Hope for Healing.
Hi,
Thank you, Bella, for
everyone.
joining us.
I'm Lindsay Ducharme. I'm a registered dietitian and I specialize in kidney nutrition. I have a private practice called Vital Kidney Nutrition, focused on providing nutrition counseling to those with early stage kidney disease. So I am here to present on plant-based for the holidays. So start. Oops. Okay, so let's get started. So just an overview of what I'm going to be talking about. So I'm going to first introduce what is a plant-based diet, and the focus of the presentation is going to be on how to make your holidays more plant-based. So we're going to go over plant-based options for appetizers, side dishes, the main course, and desserts. So what is a plant-based diet? It's a diet that focuses on mostly unprocessed fruits, vegetables, whole grains, oils like olive oil or avocado oil, nuts and seeds, beans, and legumes. A plant-based diet lacks or is limited in animal products. And by animal products, I mean things like beef, poultry, seafood, dairy, and eggs. And people tend to eat plant-based diets for health benefits. So who can benefit from a plant-based diet? Really anyone. There are many health conditions that have proven to benefit from more plant-based diets, and this includes chronic kidney disease, diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, and more. So if you're doing a plant-based holiday, it's really going to impact and benefit anyone that you're eating with. So the first step of having more of a plant-based holiday starts with planning. So you really need to plan ahead of time what you're going to prepare, just like you would for, if you're having any type of holiday gathering. So a good option is to aim for having one plant-based item at every course. Think of plant foods that your family already eats and likes. So I'm sure there's plenty of dishes that you already make that include vegetables. So you want to focus on these foods. And then you could think of ways to adjust the recipes you make to make them more plant-based. So let's think about some appetizer options. So at a lot of parties, I feel like cheese is one of the main appetizers that you're going to see, whether it's just something simple like cheese and crackers or some sort of cheese dip. Another option that you could do that's plant-based instead of cheese is trying like a hummus, and you could do it with vegetables and whole grain crackers. There's plenty of store-bought hummuses that are totally fine, or you can make your own. So something like if there's a meat type appetizer, like chicken wings, for example, instead of using chicken, you could try it with cauliflower. I personally love buffalo. So, to me, I'm more into the buffalo flavor than the actual chicken itself. So I really like the buffalo cauliflower type wing type things. So that usually goes over well with people. So instead of something like a sour cream and onion dip, you could try this product that I've had. is a cashew and almond dip in a roasted garlic flavor. So there are lots of different plant-based dips on the market. So you kind of got to experiment a little bit, see what works for your taste buds. So I do like this brand because it is free of a lot of preservatives that a lot of people with kidney disease are told to avoid. Like there's no phosphorus additives in this brand, and there is no potassium additives. So this is a good one. So another idea for a plant-based appetizer is building your own vegetable charcuterie board. So usually people will have these boards filled with meats and cheeses, but you could really make a really nice presentation, different fruits, vegetables. You could use different type of bread and crackers. And for your dips, you could choose plant-based options like, again, hummus. There's so many different varieties of hummus. There's like garlic, and I've seen hummus made from beets and different types of things. And bean dip is another thing that a lot of people tend to be familiar with and already like. And then this board also includes some nuts and some roasted chickpeas for something a little bit crunchy. So I have this website underneath. That is where this picture is from. And they have some tips on building a charcuterie board with vegetables. So just a word on vegan cheese. So a lot of people think when they're doing plant-based, they could simply just swap from regular to vegan cheese, which you totally can, but you have to be a little bit cautious in choosing a vegan or plant-based cheese. So as you can see, this brand, these are the ingredients of these cheddar style shreds. So it's a lot of different ingredients in here, like different oils, some flavoring. There is phosphorus additives in this. As you can see, tricalcium phosphate. And there's also potassium salt. So you want to be a little bit selective in your vegan cheese and choose one that at least doesn't have the phosphorus additives, maybe, if you have CKD especially. So a better option of vegan cheese is one that is made from whole food ingredients. So this is a recipe for a vegan almond cheese spread. So they actually make this spread from almonds, which is crazy. But once you blend them all up with water, it almost does have a cheesy flavor. So the nutritional yeast actually is an ingredient that's used in a lot of homemade vegan cheese spreads or any type of cheesy dish that's vegan. So that adds a nice nutty flavor. And then there is the website where I found that recipe. So let's talk about side dishes. So I'm sure there's plenty of side dishes that you already have at your traditional holiday meals that include vegetables like these. So your recipes may be including some animal products. So you can think of how to make your current dishes without them. Like for instance, like something like mashed potatoes. You could try making it, without the milk or cream. Maybe you could try a little bit of almond milk. If you do roasted vegetables, some people, add things like bacon. You could try doing it without and maybe add, something else, like maybe some nuts on top to give it some crunch or a little bit something extra. So you got to use your imagination and think of foods that you already like. So it's a good idea when you're trying to do a plant-based holiday to just have a variety of different vegetables so that you can really get more nutrition at your meal. And here is just an example how you can transform a traditional holiday side into a plant-based version. So this recipe I found just from like the Campbell Soup website. This is their green bean casserole. So it includes obviously the condensed cream of mushroom soup, milk, soy sauce, green beans, and fried onions. So obviously these two top ingredients are the ones that are not, they're animal products, so they're not plant-based. So in this plant-based version I found, they basically made their own version of condensed cream of mushroom soup using vegetable broth, mushrooms, and then they used the flour and the almond milk to kind of make that creamy broth. And then, all the other ingredients are, plant-based as well. So you can kind of play around with recipes in this way to kind of make them plant-based. So the main dish, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So if you want to try a plant-based main dish, you want to think of a dish that's quote unquote real food. So by that, I mean, so there's a lot of vegan meat products on the market, which may have a slight advantage over your animal proteins for those with kidney disease that aren't on dialysis, people that need to be careful with protein. But sometimes these vegan meats can be full of additives, fillers, and sodium, which are not necessarily something we want to have a lot of in our diet. So if you want to try something like more meaty that's plant-based, tofu is an option, especially in place of something like chicken or turkey. It's not something that everyone is accustomed to or willing to try, which is totally fine, but it's an option. For something like ground beef, lentils and beans usually work as a great substitute. But for a lot of people, just focusing on a main dish that is rich in vegetables or grains, because that's just more familiar to most people. And some people, they can still be doing mostly a plant-based diet, even if they're having a little bit of animal protein. So what you can do, so I have the plate method here. So as you can see, half your plate is vegetables, and then you have a quarter of your plate whole grain, and then the other quarter protein. So you're thinking of the vegetables and the grain as most of your plate. So if you're trying to limit the animal protein, that's totally fine. You could have a little piece, and most of your dish is not animal protein. But for those of you who do want to include a plant-based main dish, these ideas seemed really good because, again, they're using ingredients that a lot of people may already be familiar with. So, and the recipes are down here if you want to check them out. But this is just a stuffed acorn squash with some rice and some fruit and vegetables in there. And then this is a pot pie that is made with sweet potato and kale. So dessert is a great way to fit in more plant foods. So think of a dessert that includes fruit. So a lot of people may already be having like fruit pies or like an apple crisp. And you could always include like a fruit salad with your dessert. So there are a few tweaks you can make to recipes. So some recipes, they may include eggs, which eggs are not considered plant-based, but you could make a plant-based egg out of chia or flaxseed. So what you do is you take 1 tablespoon of either chia seed, or you want to do the ground flax, and then you mix in 3 tablespoons of water, and then you kind of let it sit, and then it forms a gel. So it basically just replaces the egg as a binder in the recipe. So another easy replacement is, instead of regular dairy, like regular milk, you could use non-dairy milk. So almond, coconut, or soy milk. depending on what kind of dessert. The coconut milk tends to have more of a coconut flavor, so you may want to take things like that into consideration before using them as a replacement. And here is a plant-based dessert I found on nutritionfacts.org. So these are brownie sandwich cookies made completely plant-based. So it actually includes black beans in them, which a lot of plant-based brownie desserts include black beans, and you can't really taste them. And for a sweetener, it uses dates. So I've done dates as a sweetener in a couple recipes, and it really does work because the dates, again, are very sweet. So it uses oats, nut or seed butter. So as you can see, there's no dairy in here. And all the products, all the ingredients in the recipes are, pretty unprocessed. So just to summarize, when you're trying to do more of a plant-based holiday, what you want to do is focus more on whole food options like fruits, vegetables, grains over processed vegan meat and cheeses. You want to try and include common plant-based foods that your family already enjoys. That will just ensure that, everyone's going to enjoy what they're eating if they're familiar with the food. And you can try to adjust current recipes to make them more plant-based. And don't be afraid to try something new. You never know what you're going to like. All right. Thank you for listening to my presentation. And here is where you can find me. My website, vikidneynutrition.com. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. We appreciate that. And we'll go to a commercial real quick.
Okay.
All right, welcome back. We're going to jump straight into the next one, Lindsay.
Okay. Do you want me to bring it up?
Yeah, you can. Just the same way we did the last one.
Okay. One second. I'm just trying to make my picture bigger. I'm not quite sure how to make it bigger.
That's fine. It should be bigger on here.
Okay. Actually, okay. Sorry, I'm just gonna go to here. Just 1 second. Okay. Okay. So I just have a couple slides on just potassium content of holiday foods. So some people that have kidney disease, they may need to be a little cautious with potassium. So it's really good to know ahead of time, what kind of dishes are going to be low in potassium or high in potassium so that you can plan out your meal accordingly. So I have the lower potassium foods on this slide. So as you can see, we have green bean casserole. So half a cup is the serving size of most of these foods. This is low in potassium. So any food that is less than 250 milligrams of potassium per serving, around 200 to 250, lower than that is considered a low potassium food. So other low potassium options would be carrots, creamed corn. Corn in general is considered low in potassium. So if it's just corn kernels or cream corn, that's going to be low. Your bread stuffing is typically going to be low potassium. Collard greens are actually low. So a lot of people think all greens are high in potassium, but not all. So collard greens is a great low potassium option. Mac and cheese, if you do half a cup, that can come in at low potassium. And some of your condiments like the cranberry sauce and the gravy is going to be low potassium as well. So I just got to stop sharing so I can share the other slide. And here we have the higher potassium side dishes. So mashed potatoes, as most people know, potatoes are pretty high in potassium. So half a cup of regular mashed potatoes, they are pretty high at 370 milligrams. If you double boil your potatoes, that actually does remove some potassium. So if you did double boiled mashed potatoes, it's still a little high in potassium at 212 milligrams, but that's a lot better than the 370. So sweet potato casserole is pretty high. So any type of potato or yam is going to be a high potassium food. And butternut squash is also high in potassium. So just because these foods are high in potassium doesn't mean you necessarily have to avoid them. You could just do a smaller portion or just plan your meal. So if you really love the sweet potato casserole, maybe just skip, one other food that's like a medium potassium item, just so you could fit in one of your favorite dishes. So I hope that was helpful.
It definitely was. Bella, you have the first question.
Well, yeah, thanks, Lindsay, for those slides. I mean, they were definitely very informative, and I really love the recipes and showing all the different types of things that can be done with, with a plant-based diet, especially when we get into the desserts. That one is, those are really cool. And with the increasing amount of people that are trying to, as we're of course focusing on our kidney recipients and diabetics, many people are now trying to cut back on meat, red meat especially, because it is just really so unhealthy. I mean, I stopped when I got diagnosed. Like I said, probably it's been about 21 years since I've had red meat myself. I never went back even after transplant. And I am a fan of plant-based food. It is not my diet in its entirety, but other than chicken and fish, I love plant-based sausages, and there's just so many great plant-based meals that are really very tasty, but they are time consuming. And I think that's a problem that comes in with a lot of people. It does take time to prepare the dishes, but so many people are trying to go back because of the health reasons, budgetary, and environmental even. So with these type of dishes, is it better for a person in the sense of it being an overall alternative to meat, especially we're talking about our recipients and diabetics. And another thing, it seems to be extremely costly. And that's what people that have told me, I would like to do that, but it costs more money for plant-based, even as opposed to just, getting a regular steak or burger. So I was just wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, those are some really good and valid points. It can be costly, some of these meat alternatives especially. And it's not really all or nothing when you're doing plant-based, but I think it definitely, cutting back on the red meat is definitely important. And, especially, for people with kidney problems, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to avoid it completely, but some people find, if they have a little bit, they may want more. So some people prefer just to kind of eliminate it. But you don't necessarily have to be doing the plant-based meats per se, because some of them may be higher in sodium anyways, which, we don't necessarily want. Beans are obviously, the best option for plant protein, or like lentils or nuts, things like that. But it is time consuming preparing these type of things, especially for people who aren't used to this type of cooking. Because a lot of people, they grew up, meat is part of the meal. So they may not be familiar with methods of cooking some of these plant proteins. But I think starting simple is good. So, I mean, try to think of, a bean meal that you've had, before being plant-based. Like, some people may be used to things like chili with beans. So, I mean, start with recipes that you're kind of familiar with. and things like pasta. Like most people have, pasta is an easy meal that most people can make, which can be totally plant-based. So their meal doesn't necessarily have to include some of these plant-based meats in order to be meeting their needs.
Awesome. Thank you.
So my question is, so what are your thoughts? Because people, some people don't really see a difference. But what are your opinion when it comes to store bought plant based products and making your own stuff at home? Because some people, they're like, I don't see a taste difference, or they go by taste as opposed to what's actually being put in the meal. Like you said before, there's some additives and stuff like that because it has shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
Certain things. So, what are your thoughts on store bought product versus homemade products?
Yeah, so it really depends on the product, but for convenience, I mean, there's plenty of store-bought products that can work.
Mm,
Um, but it definitely, it's important to be looking at the label and what's in these foods. So, I mean, that can be an adjustment for some people, just knowing what to look for on the label, but definitely once the more you do it, like scanning the ingredient list, like for phosphorus additives, um, which would basically be any ingredient that has PHOS. People with kidney disease need to be careful of. And it doesn't mean, you can occasionally, there may be a product like, a certain type of food where it's going to be, there may only be at your store something with a phosphorus additive, and that's okay once in a while. As long as, you just don't want every single item that you're buying to have
mm,
that additive in it. So they're going to sneak in here and there because that's just how the foods are made.
right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, making some of these products on your own, it can be quite time consuming. Like I'm thinking more of, the cheese dishes, like, because I've tried to make some like vegan plant-based cheeses using the nuts and things. And it does take a little bit more time and effort, and you need to have the right equipment. So you'll need like a food processor or like a powerful
Mhm.
blender, which not everyone has. So it really depends on, what you have at home. Um, the store-bought option may be easier for someone because they don't have the proper equipment. So you just gotta do what works for you. There's really no perfect way of doing it.
Mhm. Definitely. Yeah. And that's one of the, again, that's a really big thing with everyone today. A couple of big things: cost, effectiveness, and and just time. Everyone, it's just all about time. But I do feel that a plant-based diet is a great diet to have, but just like anything else, in order to really achieve all its of the great things about it you do have to put in the time and money, but we have to eat anyway, and it becomes a lifestyle though, and you do really see a difference in how you feel
Mm-hmm.
and your overall health. So my second question to you is, we've definitely talked about all the benefits of a plant-based diet. So let's talk about what are some of the possible risks that can be involved with, having a plant-based diet. Um, I know when I first got into it, the first thing I had to look into for myself was making sure it was going to provide me with, an adequate amount of protein and whatever vitamins are involved. So I just wanted you to elaborate on that part.
Yeah, definitely. So especially, someone who's post-transplant and needs more protein, you have to kind of, make sure that you're eating the actual like high protein plant foods. It's definitely possible to meet your protein needs plant-based, but you have to really plan your diet a little more carefully. So that is an issue for some people. So other things that plant-based diets can fall short of are things like iron. So although plant foods have iron in them, it's not as easily absorbed as the iron from meats. So you have to kind of make sure you're eating these high iron plant foods. And when you do, having a food that has vitamin C, because the vitamin C is going to help you absorb the iron from plant food. So that's really important. Other vitamins that may be lacking in a plant-based diet are vitamin B12, because vitamin B12 comes only from animal products. Well, I shouldn't say only. It's in nutritional yeast that I mentioned before. That's what people tend to use for like a cheesy flavor in vegan dishes. That actually does have a lot of B12, but most people get B12 from animal products. Calcium can be lacking in some plant-based diets. So there are vegetables that have calcium, but most people are used to getting calcium from dairy products. So you just need to make sure, you're eating a wide variety of plant foods to make sure you're getting all the different nutrients and vitamins.
Yeah.
Great. Are there any particular plant-based cookbooks or websites you recommend? I just saw a couple links on your presentations. Are there any, like, some that you would say that you would recommend to somebody that's just starting out versus somebody who's kind of been in it, for a year or two, that's kind of have that experience and know what they like and what they don't like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually have never purchased any plant-based cookbooks, but I find a lot of things online. So nutritionfacts.org is great for recipes. Forks Over Knives is another one that is really great. But a lot of times, I'll just think of, when I want to make a certain plant-based dish. Like if I was going to make like a plant-based mac and cheese, like I may just Google like plant-based mac and cheese. And then I kind of just like browse through the recipes because there's so much on the internet. And then a lot of them will be like rated. So I'll kind of look for like one that's higher rated and just check that recipe out. But I find, just Googling different recipes is helpful, or looking on Instagram for inspiration. So if you look up like plant-based recipes, you'll find a lot of good content on that as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's good. So, Lindsay, my next question for you is plant-based, it's actually two-part. Is plant-based food actually made from plants? That's the first part. And would you say that there would be anyone that may be dealing with an actual health issue, or i.e. concern regarding their health or any type of deficiency, that should actually stay away from a plant-based diet? Did you get that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So is plant-based food made from plants? So, I mean, the plant-based products like meats and like cheeses, they're not necessarily made from plants. They just do not contain animal products. So to have the label, the food labeling for plant-based is, I don't know if there's an actual definition yet. Like for something that's vegan or gluten-free, like they have specific qualifications. But plant-based is kind of newer. But because I've seen a plant-based cream cheese, for example, and it said right on it contains milk. So that was, the food labeling is very confusing. But if it doesn't contain meat, then it could be called plant-based. So And it could just be made from different ingredients, not necessarily plants. But there are some plant-based products out there. Like there's some plant-based burgers, like frozen burgers that are made from plants. Like, and you just have to look at the ingredient list. If you see, it's made from things like rice or quinoa, different vegetables, then that's probably the better option. And for people, I think, that wouldn't benefit from a plant-based diet. I'm not quite sure, but I think, it does help for a lot of people that are doing plant-based, especially if they have health conditions, to be doing the diet under the supervision of a dietitian, just to make sure that you're not falling short of major nutrients or food groups. Like someone who has kidney disease, and for instance, like, they're dealing with anemia. So you really want to make sure that your diet is well planned, because, you don't want to be lacking iron when you're already anemic. So I think it can be really beneficial to work with a dietitian for instances like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was looking at when you were showing the slides, and myself, I deal with type 2 diabetes, but fortunately, I'm not on medication for it because I have such a strategic diet and exercise. But again, that's something you got to have a lifestyle about. And so I was looking at all those wonderful pasta dishes, for example, and they're great because, as the ones you were showing were plant-based. But then I was thinking, whoop, that might be a problem, because pasta oftentimes, so many things will shoot that glucose level up, so I definitely agree with you. I think it's always advisable to talk to even a nutritionist and, sit down with that person and tell them your interest in a plant-based diet and making sure that you talk to them about potential recipes and things like that. But I think overall as well, I think it's a safe diet for most people, but it is best to talk to the doctor about it, like you said. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. You're welcome.
So on your main dish plate method, you it shows that you have half your plate vegetables, then you have protein and grain kind of split up in between. I myself understand the reasoning for it. I'm sure Bella does. Just still, we've both been in 20 plus years in the kidney space. But for the person who's just now entering, dealing with kidney failure or any other type of organ failure or health issues, can you explain why you have it positioned the way you do?
Sure. Yeah. So your nutrient needs are definitely going to be different based on, what disease condition you have. Like, especially for kidney disease, it's going to vary based on your stage. But in general, having half your plate vegetables is ideal, because that's where you're getting a lot of your nutrients, your vitamins and minerals, fiber. And it's good to have a whole grain at your meal, because, you do want to have some carb at your meal. And again, it's going to vary, for people who are diabetes, they may have a certain amount of grains that they want to include. But your whole grains are also a great source of fiber. And you want to limit the protein to the quarter. And it depends, maybe some people less, some people more. And it could be plant or animal protein for some people. But you do need some protein at your meal, because we do need protein. Even, many people with kidney disease, some are a little bit scared of protein because they hear that, it hurts the kidneys, but really it's only if you're eating it too much. So we all need protein for survival. So, but most people, even, people without kidney disease, most people eat more protein than they actually need. So
Right.
that's a good recommendation for like a balanced plate.
And so regarding, we touched a little bit on supplements, Lindsay. Do you think that it's a good idea to, if someone is really thinking about getting serious and being diligent with the plant-based diet, would it be a good idea to really probably even get tested in what vitamins your body may be insufficient in? Because usually everybody is insufficient in some way. And of course, again, regarding us as recipients, recipients, yeah, too. And as Phil said, though, our newbies that are just starting, with finding out and with dialysis, usually there's always issue. Most of us are anemic. Most of us, So, as well as a few other things that you didn't know that you were deficient in, and you end up finding that out through blood tests. So, if you're going to be serious about that diet, do you think it would be a good idea to talk with your primary care and try to run some tests, so that nothing drops too low? Like you said, I know about B12 because I do a sublingual every day under the tongue, which are the best kind in my opinion, because they dissolve right away. And I didn't even know I was not severely, but a little bit deficient in B12, So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think, testing is a great idea, and, letting your doctor know that you're doing plant-based, because they may say, oh, we should check your B12, we should check your iron. But it's a good idea. Yeah, because you definitely want to know. I mean, most people on plant-based, we do recommend B vitamins because we know the diet lacks in B12. So that's usually needed in most people, but testing is always, a great option, because then you know where you're at. But yeah, some people may need to supplement iron as well, or they, depending on what stage of kidney disease, just like some people do a regular vitamin or a renal vitamin, just to cover what you may not be getting with the diet.
Thank you. Wow.
So my next question, this is I think my second to last one, but what main plant-based ingredients do you see yourself eating more than any other ones?
I would say chickpeas, because I love them, and they go well with a lot of different dishes. Like you could put them in a soup. Like the other day, I just sauteed them with vegetables and put it over rice because I just needed a quick meal. But I definitely, was not eating a lot of chickpeas like before I went mostly plant-based. So that is one that I definitely eat a lot of.
Okay, yeah, that's the one that I hear the most from everybody is chickpeas for some reason. I don't know. And nobody can really explain to me why that is. It's like it's not like normally you can say, okay, I eat pizza a lot because I love the taste of it, or whatever. Like it's never
Yeah.
like a answer to it. It's just like I don't know, I just like eating them. It's like
They're just
oh,
easy
okay.
to incorporate. Like you could throw them in salads, like
Yeah.
use them a lot of ways. And they don't have like a ton of flavor, so like they really can go with a lot of different dishes, because whatever seasoning is in the dish, like it's gonna go with the chickpeas usually. So
Yeah, I
Okay.
I love chickpeas too. I actually love it. There's this great restaurant when I was living in Florida called Fresh Market. So you kind of picture it like a Chipotle, however, very healthy, all healthy stuff. And they had this it was mixed in this very flavorful rice. I just don't remember what the rice was, and the chickpeas was in it. Oh my God, that was so good. But see, for me, I mean, I would have like gone all in hard if it weren't for the type 2, because
yeah.
that's something that will skyrocket again that glucose. So I had to really do the minimal with that. But I also experienced something a few years back. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, from a friend of mine who's vegan, and she's a great vegan cook as well. and it's called jackfruit.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you heard of that? Have you guys had it?
I've
No.
had it. It was interesting. Like I was surprised. Like it was the texture of chicken. Like I was shocked.
Yes, yes, it was. And it was so flavorful, and she made it like you would have thought it was on the lines of like a sloppy Joe, on some
Yeah.
brioche. Oh my God. I was so impressed with that. And so I just thought it was something great. And I see Phil right away went, no. So he said,
I'm pretty
no.
open minded with most stuff, and there's some things I
Yeah,
just kind of gotta get around to it. So I'm taking
Yeah.
my time.
yeah.
I'll get there. I'll get there on y'all level eventually.
It takes time, like I said. And it was just funny because you was like, and that's what most guys, they're like, no, no.
Yeah.
But my last question for you, Lindsay, is um, do you feel that a person has to really go all in, like all the time, meaning go hard to be successful and reap the benefits of a plant-based diet?
I don't think they necessarily have to. So, because a lot of people they can't, they may not be able to sustain being fully plant based because of, their lifestyle. Maybe they live with other people, like if they have kids, and it's hard because the kids don't like that kind of food. Um, or, it is time consuming. Maybe they have a change in their job and they suddenly, don't have time to cook all the time. So I think you don't have to be all in. Just it's all about just making changes that are going to fit into your lifestyle. So even just focusing on, eating more fruits and vegetables, or you could aim to have a plant-based dinner a couple times a week. Even things like that will still have a positive impact on your health. So don't feel like you need to, you're failing if, you do have meat or dairy here and there because you're not.
Right, because I agree with that. Thank you. I
You're
definitely do.
welcome.
So I'm gonna give my last question to this question in the comments, and it says, instead of B12 pills, why not B12 foods? And this person actually commented on the stream on your channel, so you may be able to
Okay.
converse a little more
Yeah.
afterwards with them about this. But this is their question.
Yeah. So you can if you're doing plant-based, it's lacking B12 because most B12 is coming from animal foods, but some people try to supplement B12 when they're plant-based with nutritional yeast is a common one. Um, some people can sprinkle that on their dishes. Um, but most of the time, it's just hard to meet your level of B12 when you're doing plant-based. Or you could, supplement a few animal products here and there to get the B12 as well. But it really depends on how strict you are with plant-based. That would determine if you need a supplement or not.
Hmm. That's
Awesome,
right.
awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. Uh, One thing I will comment on is something that you said during your presentation about switching from dairy like milk to almond, coconut, or soy milk, and I will say that in certain foods you can't taste the difference because one day I just had an urge for waffles and we had no milk in the house, and my dad it just was like, "Man, it's some almond milk in there," and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that right now. I don't know if I want to mess up my waffle because I switched milk. And I tried it anyways, and there was no taste different whatsoever
Yeah.
in that waffle at all. So,
Exactly.
and one thing I will say is sometimes you just got to try new things. You have to be open minded, especially when it comes to your health and being in situations like myself and like Bella in with kidney failure. And you have to put yourself in the best position to thrive from that day that you hear that you're dealing with kidney failure to your last day till God brings you home. So my whole thing is just be open minded and try the best nutrition that can be for your health. So
That's right.
um, Bella, any last words?
Yeah, well, I was just going to piggyback on what you said about not knowing the difference. I ran into the same issue this Thanksgiving when I was preparing rather to make the macaroni and cheese. And I went in the fridge after getting all my stuff out. I go, oh, I didn't get out milk. Now I don't drink regular milk, but when I'm going to make a mac and cheese, which isn't often because it's just not good for people to
It's not
you
good for
know,
you, but it's delicious.
absolutely, absolutely. And my family, my daughter, she want load it up, load it up, load it up, mom, with cheese, And so I go in the fridge. I'm an almond milk girl all day long, and I go, uh-oh. And I was like, I am not about to go back to the store. So I guess now she's gonna find this out because I said, and the ingredients for mac and cheese is expensive. And I was making a huge casserole of it. So I said, I hope that oh God, please just don't even let this get messy. And I didn't tell them. And they were like, oh, yeah, it's the bomb. It's so good. Now, I didn't bother to ever tell her, well, guess what, boo? It was almond milk in that, not whole milk. Because what I have found out is that a lot of times, too, yes, it can be an issue with taste, but it wasn't in this case, like you said, Phil. But I really know with a lot of people, it's a psychological thing.
That's so
It's
true.
straight psychological. Oh no, like some people who are beefers versus turkey. I'm a turkey girl all day long. I'm going to make my chili with turkey meat. And I have tested people who are deaf on, I don't do turkey meat and chili. And they were like, the chili is fire. And I'm like, really? I'm
Turkey
glad you
meat.
like it. They're like, what? I thought it kind of I'm like, oh, don't even go there.
Right, right.
But yeah, that's just really, it was really funny when that came up. But, in closing, I just want to say, I urge people who have been through what we've been through and what those who are dealing with this at a newer stage is going through. What will really help you that I didn't really experiment as much in the beginning. I just straight cut out red meat because, as you said, Lindsay, of the protein issue and just spilling so much protein. And I was told by my doctor, you don't have to cut it out, just cut back. I'm the girl, I'm going to stop cold turkey. That'll be the best thing for me. But gradually, it is better to gradually ease yourself into these things. And it's okay if you fall off the wagon, just get back up. Like Lindsay said, you don't have to make it a lifestyle, but the way you introduce yourself to things, the best way to do it is to gradually do it. And when you get more creative with it, you definitely develop a better taste for it. Like I've just recently made keto cookies, and I am on a keto cookie kick as far as that as a little treat and a healthier treat, for that one cookie about that size in my yogurt. And it satisfies for me that desire when it does come up for something sweet. So there are alternatives, healthy alternatives. We all just have to be willing to step out a little bit and introduce those into our lives. And it's good to introduce them to those that have young children initially because they are the most inquisitive. At least that's the way I feel. I don't know about you, Lindsay, because they can develop a taste for something easier than we can. So
That's very true. Yeah. Yeah, and you do develop a taste for these things. You may not like something the first time, but if you keep trying it, over time your taste buds adjust, and then you may realize, oh, I do like this. So definitely keep trying new things.
Mm-hmm.
And try them different ways. because
Yeah,
you may not like something one way, but like it a different way. But you'll never know
right.
that unless you try it. So,
Hmm.
and the reason why I needed to do I needed Lindsay to do this presentation is because us as kidney patients, we can follow a diet all the way up till we get to a holiday, and then we just don't know how to act. It's like food is the number one thing on our list that we look forward to during holidays. Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas. It's like all the foods that you would normally eat, you decide you want to eat, and then that's when your blood pressure go up, your sugars
Right.
go up, things of that nature because you fall, like you said, you fall off the wagon, and these
Hmm.
aren't reasons to just fall off the wagon. You do that unintentionally, not
Right.
something that you just intend on doing. So, thank you again, Lindsay. We appreciate your
Yeah,
time,
thank
your
you.
expertise. Thank you, Bella, for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, we will be back next with this Sunday's interview has been rescheduled for. I mean, the Sunday's interview has been rescheduled for next Wednesday, the 7th. So come back, chill with us, get a great story, and we'll see you all on Wednesday. Everybody have a great night.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.